In today's competitive world, when life is so complex and complicated, only way of success is regular upgradation and hard work. There is definitely a success stories of people and business, but how did they all succeed? Not by sheer magic. It is all because going into the deeper and deeper of technology. I think, welcome viewers. This is a very thought-provoking session which we are talking today, and the title is Digital Technologies and Teaching Learning in Higher Educations. This is the third batch. I think in our preceding two sessions we have listened our Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Nageshwar Rao sir and the coordinator Professor Santosh Pandaji and various other luminaries and experts who are working in this direction. So this was a topic which was already covered in varieties of places. But what we are talking today is more talking about out-of-box approach and how there is a technology interface, there is a technology interaction with the education vis-a-vis the National Education Policy. I am Professor Subodh Kesharwani, Director Center of Online Education, and with us Professor Nayantara Padhi. She is a professor in management in School of Management Studies. She is expert in HR and had done a lot of work related to technology enabled learning and how the technology is going to put its wear boots in academia, in the corporate, and how there is a linkage between the technology and the corporate. I think this is something which is going to play a very important role. Prior to going into the depth of this topic, I just want to throw a light on this term, because if you go into the title, you find out that the terms are very powerful. And when we bifurcate this particular term, I think this is bifurcated into 3-4 subjects, and which is itself very powerful, like digital, technology, teaching, learning, higher education, NEP 2020. I think we all know that how the Digital India campaign was started by the Government of India, and it's a great initiative which the government had taken, which had put its wear boots not in corporate world but in academia as a whole. And as far as the teaching is concerned, I think this is a very important aspect, and definitely this is definitely going to add a feather in a cap. Technology is something which is changing with the change of time. There was a time when technology was just merely a computer or the simple hardware, but with the change of time we have seen that how the technology had changed themselves. And when we talk in an educational perspective, I think this is something where it's a need of an hour, and technology is something which is definitely going to win-win as far as the learners are concerned, as far as the educators are concerned, as far as the institutions like Indira Gandhi National Open University is concerned, because we have started in 1985 with a very small programs, but after certain time you see how we have catered the 35 lakh students. This is all because the technology is with us, and the way we have moved from brick and mortar system to click and mortar system. I think there is a great role of technology, because IGNOU have shifted its education from offline to online, and online education is something which is changing with the change of time and with the latest trends which are knocking the door. I think this is something which is definitely going to make the things in a more smarter stage. Teaching is something which is changing, pedagogy had changed, and we have seen that how the National Education Policy talks about the 4 components. The first component talks about the school education, then we have higher education, then there are certain the enablers which are adding a feather in a cap, like artificial intelligence, machine learning. Lifelong learning is something which is there, because when we talk about learning, I think there we have to see that the perpetual learning had coming up, and learning is something which is changing with the change of time. There was a time when we talk about learning only, but right now we talk about learn, unlearn and relearn. So this relearning is coming up, where we mug up many things, then we change ourselves, then we come up with a different thought, and then finally you see how the things are going to be changed with this lifelong learning model. So this is something which is part and parcel of NEP 2020, and then higher education is something which is very important, because as a university, as a Indira Gandhi National Open University, I think we cater a huge number of students, and higher education is something which is changing, and we more talk about the GER, skillings and other things, and gradually we will talk about how the technology is going to put its wear boots in this direction. So if you see the verdict of our Honorable Prime Minister, I think he talks about Atmanirbhar Bharat and making education more flexible, affordable, inclusive and equitable for all. So building capacities for teacher and institutions. I think this is coming up. Reorienting, reimagining, and revamping curriculum is something which is also changing with the change of time. And there we have seen that the syllabi and curriculum have a great impact as far as the technology is concerned, because when the technology enters in the syllabi, I think there we can have a great approach. So this is something which all talks about certain things, and in our forthcoming slides we are going to talk all those aspects from underneath to pinnacle, that how the government is working in this direction, how the higher education is changing, because we are more talking about, emphasize more on the credits. And the credits, for that the academic bank of credit had come up. We will see that how this academic bank of credit and how the massive open online courseware, the open learning platform come up, which had shifted from the restricted access to open access. So this is something which is going on, and there are certain omnipresent facts which are there, because shift is there. The education had been shifted from brick and mortar system to click and mortar system. We have seen that how the greenfield education had been replaced by the brownfield education. So when we talk about the greenfield education, I think we talk about the playgrounds, we talk about the face-to-face education, the classrooms, and when you talk about the brownfield education, I think you talk about the brown chairs or the tables or the laptops or the gadgets which are equipped with that. And then the entire education system is changing. The learning management system, which we are going to talk in our forthcoming slides about that, it's definitely going to work in this direction. And then moving from PNP mode to various softwares, we have seen that there was a way when the pen and paper mode was there, but with the change of time you have seen that how the CBT model had come up, that is computer based phenomena had come up. So pen and paper, which was purely a brick and mortar approach, is now replaced by the click and mortar approach. Those softwares which I have talked about, the learning management system or the content management system or the various softwares which are working as an enabler as far as the learning is concerned, this is going to play a very important role. And examinations, because when you talk about the learning, I think the learning had been transferred into the 4 quadrant. The first quadrant talks about the self-learning material. Then you have the second component which talk about multimedia, and then you have interaction, and fourth is the assessment. So this is all about, so the proctored examination is also one of the important component, and we have seen that how the proctored exams are going to be conducted and where there is a great role. So if you talk about the online education, I think online education starts from the admission and the examination. So the university like Indira Gandhi National Open University is playing a very important role as far as the enrollments are concerned, as far as the examinations are concerned. So starting from underneath and to pinnacle, we have purely the online mode of learning the things. So MOOC tablets and other things are there, and we have seen that how the contemporary technologies like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, blockchain, deep learning, machine learning, augmented reality and virtual reality are bringing a shift in the education. Immersive learning had come up, and learning is now changing with the change of time. So there was more restrictions in the learning, but now you have seen that we are more talking about the open and free way of learning. So learning is now reached to all, and the university like IGNOU is working in this direction in a big way. So social media is going to play a very important role. Then we have seen that how we have come out from the pandemic, and how the post-pandemic was there, then pre-pandemic was there, and then how the teachers have changed themselves and aligned with the learners. So this was something which was very important, and this is something which is going to play a very important role. I think since I have given a curtain result, what exactly this digitalization is there, the technology is there.
So let's, Professor Subodh, let's I think one of the viewers is asking about what is the significance of digital technology in education. I think we are covering that in our later part in our slides, but it will be good if we make some points on this.
Look, there is a great significance as far as the digitization is concerned, as far as technology-enabled learning is concerned. Rather, I would say it's a need of an hour. There was a time when it was working as a add-on things, but now it's a prerequisite. It's a mandatory component which need to be imbibed, which need to be inbuilt in the system. So without technology, I think it's a boat without rudder. So if you want to enhance the learning, if you want to reach to the unreached, what IGNOU have a mandate, and the way we are, cater the masses. So learning, there was a time when learning was one-to-one, but now the learning is between one to many. So many learners are there and they are crossing the boundaries. They are not in our jurisdictions, but they are crossing the boundaries and in other part of the world. So how the learning will disseminate? I think there where, the great role of technology.
Right.
So technology is something which is definitely going to work as a important component. And when we are disseminating the education through online mode, I think when we talk about purely online component, there technology is very important because you have to do many things with the help of technology. Your assessment, your learning, your examination, everything could be clubbed with that. So this is something which is very important aspect. So I think we have talked about that how the digitization, how the learning is changing, and this is a three-tier approach. I think this is a very old phenomena when from the inception stage, from the either we talk about the Paleolithic age or the Neolithic age, or the learning stage. The institution is there as a one pillar, then educators are there, then learners are there. So, and they have a very important role. I think Indira Gandhi National Open University, which was formulated in 1985, emphasized more on the three-tier approach of learning. So this three-tier is something which you talk in a IGNOU perspective. I think the headquarters are there, then you have regional centers and the learner support centers. So here also the pedagogy could be more like that. It's an old phenomena. I think the learning and the way of teaching is there, which is changing with the change of time. But the genesis behind the learning, the grassroots, if we talk about the basic root is same. So institution is something which is in a what we can say in a visual shape. Then educators are also there. It can be converted into e-tutors, and then learners are there. There was a time when learners were restricted, but right now what we have seen that learners are placed in various places, but the educators are working as enabler, working as facilitators, and bridging the gap between the institutions and the learners. So, and how this gap is going to bridge with the help of certain technologies. And technology is something which work as a very important component. Because when you talk about technology, you talk about how it is going to be facilitated, how it is going to be reached to the learners. So this is something. This is one of the examples of learning management system which IGNOU had developed as a institutions, and this purely talk about the click and mode of examinations where online admissions are there, and then finally the exams are conducted in a proctored mode, either it could be the center proctored or remote proctored, and then learners are getting the degrees at the doorstep with the help of blockchain technologies. So we admit the learners in online mode and take the examination and exit the learners through that mode. So this is something which is very important component which Indira Gandhi National Open University had started, and this is something which is across the board initiated by majorities of institutions. So the blended learning model had come up, and we have seen that we are moving towards the hybrid age, and hybrid learning is more talking about the combination of the blended learning and other aspects. So this is something which is going to play a very important role, and educators are somewhere changing with the change of time, and you see how the educators are more techno savvy. They are more acquainted with the latest trends, latest the way of thing is there. I have talked about the various pedagogy, the teaching pedagogy had been changed, the national education policy. If you see the the point number 23 and 24, which emphasize more on technology enabled learning and the tools which are going to be used. It had talked about how the educators are going to be change themselves, because there was a time when since we are a management professors, and we know that in management there is a very powerful term called push approach and pull approach. If you talk about the pull approach, I think push approach is quite the institutional centric, supplier centric, where you are making a syllabi, you are making a curriculum, then learners are bound to go for that particular curriculum, and then they have no choice, they have to choose from that particular basket. But when you have a pull approach, I think pull approach is more learner centric, more user centric, and you are giving privilege to the learners to decide their syllabi, decide their curriculum. So the huge number of baskets are there. The credit system which the ministry have taken initiatives, I think we are having a fruitful discussion on that also. It talks about academic bank of credit, where as far as enrolling in a particular program, I think credit plays a very important role. And if you achieve particular credit to get a master's degree or the UG degrees, I think somewhere you have win the battle, and the learners are in a very prominent stage. Once they achieve that particular credit, they can convert it into a degree programs or a diploma programs or certificate program. So this is something which is changing with the change of time, and learners I have talked about, I think the organic learning have come up, and you have seen that learning is now something which changed with the change of time. And there were as we talk about why we are talking about the organic kind of thing, and as far as our food habits are concerned, as far as the different way of things in day-to-day activity, we are more talking about organics. So learning is also more organic in nature. We have to see, because a lot of sources are there which are available in various chunks, but when you go deeply into it, you found out that some are useful, some are authentic, some are not authentic. So when you talk about organic learning, I think we have to see this kind of approach, because learning is now changing with the change of time. There was a time when you restrict to only books and journals, but with the change of time, you have seen that the learning is also changing, and this learning had changed due to this the approach which is coming up, and learner-centric approach which I have talked about, that collaborative learning as far as the virtual and online learning environments are there, and the teamwork model is coming up. So learners tend to go together, imbibing and building knowledge, and idea of collaborative learning had come up. So collaborative learning is like that, say the educators have developed a video, and these videos are now confined to the bona fide student of particular group, but it is going to be shared to the various learners who want that. For that, this openness, another model which ministry have taken initiative, I think madam will throw a light on that, how the national mission of education through information communication technology talks about the various components. So this is something which is there, in real time collaboration is coming up. So without wasting time, the things could be more dynamic in nature, and say the lectures which are broadcasted by the gamut of people, by the teachers, in a very short span you find out that the live lectures are available in a real time mode in a social networking platforms, either it could be the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or the Twitter. So this is a way by which the things are going on, and digital transformation which I am talking about is just about change, and the change is no doubt sometimes good, sometimes bad, and we have to see that how the change will come up, because changing only the devices or the pedagogy does not matter, but I think somewhere you have to change the mindset, and when you are going to change the mindset, I think it has to apply in totality. Only the mindset of the educators or the institutions not only occurs, but the teachers, but the learners also have to change their mindset. So optimizing approach matters a lot, and how we are going to revolutionize the traditional teaching and learning process, and then robust technology infrastructure is important. So when we are talking about technological change, I think somewhere we have to change many things from underneath to pinnacle. It's not about changing the devices or the softwares or the hardwares, but we have to change many aspects about that. So this is something we have seen, that if you see this particular image, we have seen that how the digitization is converted into digitalization, and then digital transformation is coming up. So electronic learning is changing with the change of time, and student experience are also going to be imbibed and incorporated. So these are the changes which is there, and I think there are certain benefits of digital technology. Digital technology introduces scopes, and the blended model is coming up. Electronic learning for higher education is changing, and there are multiple ways to communicate, learn, correspond, cooperate, and collaborate. So this is the beauty of the digital technology, because digital technology talks about the collaborative learning, the teamwork approach, and the other approach. I think I have given the curtain result to what exactly the digital technology is, and
So
how the technology is changing with the change of time, and the shelf life of the technology is very less. There was a time when we talk, if we talk in a company perspective, the companies we have seen that dominated the world market for a longer span. They there for 4 decades, 5 decades, but after certain time you see that how things are going to be changed with the change of time. And keeping in mind, I think the initiatives which are there are a lot of initiatives which the government had taken. I think before transferring to Professor Nayantara Padhi, I just throw a light that since because the madam is going to talk more about the various aspects, I think a lot of initiatives which are coming and day to day it is changing. Ministry is very particular about that the initiatives in a technological manner is going to benefit the society by and large, by the learners who are scattered, who are so learning is not confined that only learn, they can earn and learn both. So skilling is also very important, and National Digital University, if you talk about, I think is a great initiative which had been coined maybe a year back by the finance minister, and in a coming days, in a coming months, you find out this is going to establish with a good intention behind that, and it talks about the personalized learning experience, learning at the doorstep, and within the Indian languages. So cutting edge ICT expertise is there. Hub spoke model is coming up. So when you more talk about hub spoke model, I think you see that this is something which is there where you see that if I take example of Indira Gandhi National Open University, which work as a hub, and there are various nodes like the regional centers, and these regional centers are linked with that. So this is a model which is there. These are the old pedagogies which are there, but with the help of technology, the more things are going to come. So anyway, I think we see that how the credit is going to come. Madam is going to talk more about this particular aspect, and then certain digilockers. We know that how these changes are going to come up, and I think we have given a curtain raiser to a learner.
Professor Subodh has very clearly mentioned about he has set a context that what is digital learning, how the technology is changing, and what is the role of digital technology in higher education context. Now, as all of us are in a session of NEP professional development program, so it matters a lot to connect the NEP 2020 with the technology in higher education. So the chapter 23 and 24 of the National Education Policy says about the use of technology and online education. And in your screen you can see these are the 4 aspects how technology can be used in higher education.
Right.
So technology is used from the very beginning in different formats. It's not new for any one of us, maybe for the educator or for as a general public also, for learners also. But how we are leveraging the utility of technology for providing education, imparting the accurate learning management style, and how we utilize the latest technologies for that. That is one of the main scope of NEP 2020. Then how to make use of the technology is by only when we design the digital technology of higher education, when we make a proper tool structure, and what are the tools we are going to use, and what will be the procedure of uses. If we design it carefully, then technology is of great importance as per the NEP 2020. Then there are many infrastructure available, and technology, as Professor Subodh was very much right saying, that technology changes every minute, every second there is some new technology coming up. But how to integrate that and how to choose the proper selection of the technology and the available digital platforms to provide right teaching learning to the learners. So that is also one of the major aspect of NEP 2020, that is optimum utilization of existing digital platforms, ongoing ICT based educational initiatives to meet the current needs and the future challenges. Then how to use the technology for online and digital education, keeping in view the quality, equity and inclusiveness. These 3 things are very important in any aspect of education, that what we are teaching should be of high quality, it should have an equitable distribution, and it should be inclusive. All sectors of the society should be benefited from the teaching learning process. So technology is going to definitely going to play a major role in all the aspects.
So, what the trend is right now, that we have seen that there are certain changes in the society is coming up, and the learners are having a flamboyant in their mind that whether they go for this online, because accreditation is also matters, and sometimes what happens, they are comparing the two courses, two
Yeah.
programs which are offered by the institution.
So the fact is there are many options available now. So like earlier we only used to think that conventional system face-to-face teaching is reliable and more authentic than online teaching and technology-based teaching. But pandemic has given us
Very true.
is a clue that technology can play a major role in absence of face-to-face teaching, while a teacher is also present. A role of a teacher will never subsume how much technology we imbibe, but it is the role of teacher, what kind of technology can be used and what kind of teaching learning process we are going to implement. And moreover, with the coming digital technologies are being more authenticated. In India, UGC is now comparing, there is no distinction between online teaching and conventional teaching and blended teaching. So it is becoming more authentic, more institutionalized, and it has become a reliable source of learning.
No, one thing I want to know from your end, like, don't you think the flexibility had not given to the learners but to the teachers also? So as far
technology plays a teacher role in teaching a teacher also and a learner also.
Very true.
So technology is a teacher for both teacher and learners.
So even as I have talked about that, the learners have got the full flexibility to choose from the basket,
Right.
that what kind of the specialization they are interested in and what type of courses they want. On the other hand, it is giving full flexibility to the teachers that they can design the course as per their interest.
Yeah.
And these courses are if teachers are having an interest in the particular course, they can disseminate the learning in a more.
So if you can see in the
Yes.
slide that technology has got many advantages.
Yes.
So the basic advantage of for a educator is it empowers a educator with many varieties of technology, many varieties of teaching learning. Teacher always tries to find the best possible way to teach the learners. They always innovate something. We as teachers always innovate something to teach something new, to teach something interesting. So technology plays a major role in providing information across the world, and which empowers an educator with so much information that they can very easily change the pattern. They can very quickly update themselves with many information. So that is an added advantage for an educator.
And one more thing, I think the four the bullet which you have talked about,
Yeah.
and the third bullet emphasizes more on helps educator to create blended learning environment. So as far as the learning is concerned, I think we have a face-to-face learning which is a conventional way of learning, whereas if you talk about electronic learning, and now the blended learning is coming up. So educators are having a privilege to have a blended learning approach with them. It's not like that
हम ये ना सोचे कि ऑनलाइन हो जाएगा, टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करने से फेस टू फेस कम्प्लीटली इरेडिकेट हो जाएगा. नो, इट विल ऑलवेज बी देयर. सो टीचर यूजेस डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स. तो उससे क्या फ़ायदा होगा ना, यू गेट डिफरेंट एवेन्यूज टू टीच एंड द लर्नर्स they get different aspects of the particular subject or of different topics. So while the face-to-face teaching is going on, we can supplement different varieties of other teaching methods, other learning methods by using the appropriate technologies.
I think the term which you have used, the supplement, is a very important term, because the four quadrant which we talk about, I think the first quadrant, which is a text material, the self-learning material, and then you have multimedia, and then assessment, and then interaction, and then examination. Obviously the four quadrant is there. So
these four things are completely either you depend fully on technology or use technology as a supplementary resource for doing all these activities. So
Right.
technology is an add-on value to our teaching learning process. A teacher can never be substituted completely by technology. It is just going to add value to our teaching profession. So that is the biggest advantage of accepting technology as a supplementary resources. We should not think that it is going to replace our teaching profile. No, not at all. A teacher only decides what to teach, which technology to use, which platform to use. So it gives us an arena of different platforms available. So teacher is primary, learner centric is every teacher's prime approach. Technology is just a medium. It cannot replace, but it is an add-on value to the teaching learning process.
Right.
So there are many benefits of technology in classroom as a face-to-face teacher. We can use technology to create an engaged learning environment. We can like in management, we use different case studies, we use simulation techniques, we show different contextualized examples using earlier we used to have PowerPoint presentations, slides, etc. But now we can use any medium, anything, like we can show in a YouTube video, we can show a TED talk, we can just play a podcast also.
Right.
So just by instead of talking for 45 minutes session, if we just allow others to listen to different varieties of medium, then that is more engaging than only just by talking, because there are many freely available sources, what we call as open educational resources, which any teacher can use to impart teaching learning. Then it prepares for the students for the future also, because it always grabs attention of the latest knowledge, skills and attitudes required for the new workforce. So the students, they themselves can come prepared, because it is information is available, dearth of information is available to them through technology. So it also prepares them for their future employability. Then the best part of this is there is always an importance of connectivity between a teacher and a learner, and a learner and a learner. The peer connectivity is very much vital to survive in this dynamic environment. So by using different technology, social media is one of them. So we are connected not only for our social life, but also for knowledge sharing.
Yes.
Then it boosts collaboration. When we are connected, we do different things collaborative. No one can exist in a singular status. Like, we cannot do any work in an office of our own. We have to do it in a teamwork. So collaboration is very important. And then there are many technology tools which boosts collaboration.
And I think what you talked about, that the interaction is quite agile as far as the learner to learner is concerned, as far as learner to instructor is concerned.
Right.
So in face-to-face education, what we have seen that the model is like, the modus operandi is that learners are interacting in the classroom, but they have certain constraint as far as the time is concerned. But here you have got the interaction in a 24/7 mode, in a real-time mode also. So the learners can interact during the sessions which are going on, as well as what you have talked about. There are certain the way, either podcast or the short videos or the real-time TED Talks are there. So on the other hand, the interactivity is going on.
Right.
So in the initial stage, when this contemporary learning was started, it was having a certain constraint. It was more static in nature. But right now, if you talk about, it's more dynamic, more real time. So when you talk about real time, I think real time is something which is very important and need to be understood, because
real time assessment is very essential these days, which was very difficult in brick and mortar system.
Yes.
So if technology has really played a vital role in making real-time assessment a success.
Look, in the beginning stage, what happened that when we talk about the data or when we talk about the information, it was restricted to only certain things. But now when you talk about real time, you know what exactly, you know, the feeling the learners have, what exactly the taste the learners have. So on the basis of that, you know, the curriculum is going to be designed or reframed or you know, retwist. So these are the flexibility. So the genesis behind this using the technology in academia or in the higher education is that the more flexibility need to be given.
Right.
And flexibility is something which can be of different kind. It's not like that as far as the time is concerned. Cost is also something which is very important aspect. And you have seen that what you have talked about, you know, the open platforms, the open ER, open educational resources. These have given birth to, you know, float the learning in a massive manner. So
Sky is the limit.
Yes.
If we ask for any information.
Massive open online courseware MOOC, which was initiated by MIT or by, you know, the various institutions, and now IGNOU is also, you know, working in this direction. We are the national coordinators of SWAYAM and SWAYAM Prabha, and you see that how the SWAYAM courses are aligned with the learners and crossing the you know, jurisdictions of
so
the.
There are many
learners.
digital teaching learning technologies are available. Some of them we will try to focus today. The very basic thing is when we digitalize any teaching learning process, we have to work on a learning management system. What is learning management system? It is a platform where we can store our course materials, our activities, our videos, our modules. All the online programs, let it be SWAYAM or let it be IGNOU online programs, or the one you are enrolled now in the NEP PDP program, has all these things. Like
it's
you have
also the way we are disseminating it's through the learning management system. So starting from taking the admission, then assessment, and then examination. Examination could be in a proctored mode.
Right. So whatever we are now interacting is based on a learning management system.
Very true.
And then there are different technologies like synchronous technologies and asynchronous technologies. What we are transacting now is through asynchronous technology, where online real time we are having a discussion. You are putting your questions and we are delivering a lecture, we are showing multimedia. So all these things are happening real time. So this is based on the synchronous technology. But when you want to view the today's videos in your own convenient time, then that comes under the asynchronous technology.
Yes.
So that is when you use the video, you use your time, your free time to watch. Suppose for some reason you could not watch the real time session, then no problem. You have the option to watch the video in your convenience using the asynchronous technology.
And I think with the change of time, you find out that both this component, as far as the synchronous learning, as far as asynchronous learning, it will go together. I think when the today word is more talking about the hybrid learning and the blended learning. So it's not like that what you have talked about, that we adhere to the face-to-face only, or we adhere to, you know, the purely the contemporary way of learning, because the demand is changing. And as you have told that sometimes what happened, we are not connected with the internet. So at that time, whatever the materials we have in a static mode, that we used to do. So this is going on parallelly. And on the other hand, I think the other way is coming up, which you have talked about.
The multimedia applications is another digital teaching learning technology. This we have been listening since many years now. It must be more than a decade where multimedia uses is very much in abundance. It includes different audio, video, different kinds of technologies where we give our lectures or we prepare PowerPoint presentations. So we use different kinds of technology and combine them to form one teaching lecture or one PowerPoint presentation. So that comes under the multimedia application. Now collaborative applications are very much in use since the pandemic.
Yes.
So we started doing our meetings, we started taking our classes, we started taking examinations, assessment, everything on a platform, on a collaborative platform. Google Meet, Google
I
Space,
think Zoom,
Zoom,
Microsoft
anything,
Teams,
Microsoft
lot of
Teams.
virtual applications are there, virtual meetings.
Which allow us to work collaboratively for a particular purpose. So we prepare different types of tools using different types of technologies and use that platform to disseminate knowledge.
And we can use and we can reuse also.
Right.
The example which you have quoted about the synchronous and asynchronous, we have seen that when we have a virtual meeting, it's more in a synchronous mode. But after certain time, you archive it, you reuse it.
Right.
So there were certain things which can be, used for the. So the intention of the technology is that only. When we talk about teaching,
it is
and
to
learning,
provide flexibility,
yes, flexibility,
and it should be affordable, and it should be conveniently available, and that actually helps to provide the inclusive education.
Very true. And one more thing, I think now since you are going to talk about the emerging technologies, and you have seen that how the big data analytics are there, how the data size is converting into a gigantic shape, and that could be the reason. The archives are multiplying in a day-to-day basis, and huge number of archives are there. So taking into consideration, I think that there are certain emerging technologies which are facilitating, which are working as a filter process.
हमको ये सब यूज करने की जरूरत नहीं है, but these terms are in use. Sooner or later we have to get used to this and start using, but we need not use all these things for our teaching learning technology. These are available.
नहीं, पर कभी हमें लगता है कि हमारे पास हमें क्या पढ़ना है, हमें क्या करना है और कैसे करना है. देखिए टेक्नोलॉजी है, जैसे आपने पहले अभी बहुत अच्छी बात कही कि लर्निंग मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि हर समय एवरी टाइम वी टॉक अबाउट टेक्नोलॉजी एंड देयर इज नो सच प्रोविजन दैट ह्यूमंस आर गोइंग टू बी रिप्लेस्ड बाय द टेक्नोलॉजी, बट दे वर्क एज ए फैसिलिटेटर्स. और कहीं कहीं आप देखेंगे कि टेक्नोलॉजी आपकी मददगार भी हो रही है. कहीं कहीं हमें लगता है कि टेक्नोलॉजी हमें सपोर्ट कर रही है कि हमें क्या करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमें किस रास्ते जाना चाहिए, कैसे करना चाहिए. देखिए lot of verticals are coming up, but technology.
But the importance is we have to accept the change. We have to accept the change, reskill ourselves, then unskill with the things which are not required, reskill ourselves with the latest technologies, so that we don't feel lost in this web world.
Very true, very true.
So there is a sea of technologies available, there is a sea of information available. Just Google itself provides us so much information that we feel sometimes lost. But we have to restrict our focus. We have to very carefully select which technology to use for our students. We need not use all the available technologies.
I think the phenomena, the term which you have talked about, the machine learning or deep learning is working or facilitating a learners in a big way. आपने देखा होगा कि जैसा भी आपने कहा कि अब बहुत डेटा बहुत ज़्यादा है, कहीं भी हर चीज़ में. मान लीजिए पढ़ने में आपके पास अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ बहुत है. देयर वाज अ टाइम व्हेन there were only brick and mortar institutions, so learners are restricted to study only that particular institution. But now the basket is very bigger. There are certain the open educational resources. There are certain the courses which are freely available. One can mug up those courses and they can do that. तो ये जो चेंज आया सोसाइटी में, आपने कहीं से क्रेडिट ले लिया, एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट की, जैसे मैं आगे भी हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स ने इसमें बात किया, वी हैव डेडिकेटेड सेशंस ऑन दैट. और हमने देखा है कैसे क्रेडिट इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर रहा है. कोई भी काम एकेडमिक वर्ल्ड में किया हुआ उसको वो डेजिग्नेट हो जाता है क्रेडिट के फॉर्म में.
और हमको ये सब चीज़ करने के लिए वी डोंट रिक्वायर टू स्पेंड एनी ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ मनी. जस्ट आवर स्मार्टफोन इज इनफ टू यूज दिस टेक्नोलॉजीज, है ना. So pandemic has given us enough lessons how to smartly use our smartphone to derive the utmost outcomes.
Yes.
So Government of India is also very much active in utilizing different technologies for higher education. There are many freely available platforms that are developed by our Government of India in the form of audio, video, e-content, digital content, Then accelerated hands-on learning means practicals. These are some of the examples. Swayam is the latest buzz in case of audio video
Yes,
content.
I think if you go into the backdrop, you find out कि आप देखेंगे कि 3000 के आसपास कोर्सेज इसमें आ गए
freely
हैं,
available
freely
across
हैं.
all disciplines.
और उसमें जो है, अगर if you talk in a IGNOU perspective, I think till date 185 courses which IGNOU is offering. And good part is that कि there are varieties of institutions which are opting this particular course. In their syllabi, they are clubbing it so that they don't have, so if the
सपोज आप केमिस्ट्री का कुछ केमिस्ट्री के एक टीचर हैं, आप यू आर टीचिंग and you want to show an on MOOC class to your students, so you can just log into the Swayam that particular course, and you can ask your students to enroll for that particular course to get additional information, and that is free of cost.
मल्टीडिसिप्लिन की बात हो रही है. आप नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में देखिए, जैसा कि आपने बताया कि पॉइंट नंबर 23-24 टॉक्स अबाउट द मल्टीडिसिप्लिन, जिसमें there is no such rule, there is no such rocket science that you are a science pursuing student, so you can go for the science related
and आपको ये करने की भी ज़रूरत, कुछ बनाने की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है. इतना सारा चीज़ जो अवेलेबल है, we just need to pick and choose and use.
Yes.
So there are lot of initiatives by our government of India. एक तो ये स्वयं है, another one is स्वयं प्रभा, but there are dedicated 32 educational DTH channels, and अभी भी आप जो देख रहे हैं वो स्वयं प्रभा चैनल 20 में you are able to view the program. National Digital Library is another initiative where there are multiple disciplines का e-contents are available. It is managed by IIT Kharagpur. You can just create a username and you can access to the National Digital Library contents. ePG Pathshala is a gateway for e-books from starting from KG till PG, where you get all the e-books, e-textbooks, NCERT books available free of cost, along with few videos and also exercises. So all these things you can use while you are teaching in your university or college. Subodh Ganga is a reservoir of Indian thesis like PhD. All the PhD theses that are submitted are being uploaded in Subodh Ganga.
Right.
The entire content of the thesis is available in Subodh Ganga. Whatever, whichever number of theses are submitted are being automatically uploaded in the Subodh Ganga. Subodh Sindhu is a site for the e-journals. There are many interdisciplinary journals are available in this site. Then these are very new things in technology enabled learning for how to do practicals, especially for our engineering, technology, science students. There is one e-Yantra where there are hands-on experience for doing practical classes. This has really helped students during the pandemic for doing the online practical sessions. Then FOSE is a free open source software for creating a real-time lab kind of situation, which is an open source platform. You can demonstrate your lab activities using this platform. Similarly, there are tutorials for IT applications in spoken tutorial. There are virtual labs where there are already web-enabled experiments are posted in the site. So these were the some of the initiatives of government, and social media has played a major role in all our life. So we in IGNOU have used extensively the Facebook, Twitter to teach during the pandemic time, and it has really helped our learners to learn a lot. And our regional centers use the WhatsApp and Telegram channels to get connected with all the learners to notify whatever new things are happening. So you can use at your ease any of these social media platforms while teaching for creating groups and for providing information. There are many aspects of technology which can be used as per your requirement and as per your choice. And there are also challenges.
Yes.
Everything has got a
Pros and cons.
but we have to see the glass is full, half full rather than the glass is half empty.
Very true.
So the main thing is government is trying to establish infrastructure. It is government's responsibility, our institution's responsibility. But as an individual, it is our responsibility to upskill ourselves, to train ourselves, to involve ourselves in different capacity building programs the way you are doing now, and accept the change. There is no need of resistance, because someday you have to accept the change and go with it. So better we do as soon as possible. The main thing is keep yourself updated with the available information technology, and you use your own filtering mechanism for choosing the technology. There will always be problems, there will always be negative sides of anything that we do. Even our personal lives have both. So why to see the negativity and stop using the benefits? So that's how technology.
Yes. I think there are certain questions which have come from the viewers, and we can take that particular questions. So this is something which is changing very fast, and you have seen that how the technology is coming up and knocking the door, and we have no choice rather than to accept it. तो ये एक बड़ी चीज़ है, और आप देखेंगे कि आने वाले समय में the institutions who are going to change themselves, they will establish, and those who are not going to change, ultimately they will be out from the fray.
Right.
So ये इस तरह के बहुत इश्यूज हैं, और टेक्नोलॉजी का अपना देखिए उपयोगिता है, और अपने प्रॉस एंड कॉन्स है, आपने जैसे कहा, और आगे ये चलता रहेगा. और हमें ऐसा लगता है कि many things had to be come in a coming days. Accordingly, we have to do that. So there are certain questions which are
there are. So I'll just. How to implement digital technology in rural areas? This is one of the.
देखिए, if you talk in India as a whole, I think we have a urban belt, we have a rural belt, and ये अगर आपने कुछ कोर्स बना दिए कीपिंग इन माइंड द मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटीज़ लर्नर्स, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि वहाँ पे कुछ चैलेंज है. और अगर आप इसकी बात करें कि डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी को रूरल एरियाज़ में कैसे, देखिए स्मार्टफोन आज की डेट में जो रिक्वायरमेंट है, द बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट is the if you talk about the gadgets, I think the smartphones are available. So rural sector में अगर आप बात करें,
mobile penetration is almost every person has got a mobile, but digital divide का तो अभी भी there is a problem of digital divide.
देखिए अभी जैसा मैंने आपको पहले कहा था कि when you talk about usage of technology or implementation of technology, उसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि you can change everything in a day. There must be certain procedures, there must be certain modus operandi that things can be started with a small
with
span.
the Digital India initiatives of Government of India, every house, every person is now connected. So it's up to the person how that person is trying to, willing to take the help of technology to reach.
Yes. रही बात देखिए डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी आज की डेट में, जैसे एग्जांपल अभी आपने दिया फेसबुक का, इंस्टाग्राम का, यूट्यूब का, ये तो देखिए दीज आर द omnipresent technologies which are available in every juncture, in every point. So very easily it can be penetrated, it can be used and reused.
So there is one more question, difference between e-learning and digital learning. So e-learning is purely based on your online platforms. So digital learning uses different media. The multimedia approach is basically the objective is same, using online platform to provide any teaching.
Yes.
But digital learning, the umbrella of digital learning is bigger than the e-learning. So
Why? Because there was a restriction. जब आप इलेक्ट्रॉनिक लर्निंग की बात कर रहे थे, जैसे आप देखिए कि जब पहले लर्निंग शुरू हुई, क्यों आज की डेट में हम हाइब्रिड लर्निंग की बात कर रहे हैं, हाइब्रिड लर्निंग, ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग की बात कर रहे हैं. अगर आप डिजिटल की बात करते हैं, देखिए डिजिटाइजेशन बहुत तेज़ी से बदल रहा है. अगर आप अभी, जैसे मैं बात करूं, मैंने जैसे क्रेडिट्स की बात कर रहा हूं और मैं जितने भी अप्रोच की बात कर रहा हूं, जैसे अभी जैसे मैं टेक्नोलॉजी की डेफिनेशन की बात, टेक्नोलॉजी एक ज़माने में क्या था, टेक्नोलॉजी वॉज जस्ट computer based. It was restricted to only desktops. But at the later stage, you find out laptops had come up, smartphone had come up. Now nobody is talking about website. We are talking about application, the app based.
Yeah, अभी तो metaverse is the
yes. And on the other hand, if you talk in the present scenario, we are more talking about the cloud based learning, where the
cloud
data,
technologies.
Yes, where the data is available on the, not on your the हार्ड डिस्क.
पहले हम सब लोग फ्लॉपी यूज़ किए, फिर सीडी यूज़ किए, फिर कंप्यूटर का हार्ड डिस्क यूज़ किए. अभी हमको वो सब, वी डोंट रिक्वायर एनी फिजिकल system to store our data. So it is, everything is cloud based. So I think the education is also going to be dependent on cloud more with the advent of technology. So there is one more question. What are the new technologies that we can adopt in teaching more interactive?
Okay.
So there are many tools, interactive tools that are available. Social media is one of them. Like we can create WhatsApp groups in a, suppose I am teaching in my MBA students, then for July 2022 students I can create a group, and where we can interact with our students, the students can interact amongst themselves. Then there are cloud-based platforms also where we can make it more interactive, and there is also chat facility where there can be a two-way communication between the student and the teacher. So there are many technologies available.
Even जो हमारे virtual meeting platforms हैं, आप उसको भी use कर, देखिए लर्निंग करने के लिए, डिसमिनेट करने के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप जो आपकी डिपेंडेंसी जो है पेड सॉफ्टवेयर पे ही रहे. देयर आर लॉट ऑफ द ओपन सोर्स सॉफ्टवेयर विच आर इजीली अवेलेबल एंड देयर ओपन सोर्स रिसोर्सेज आर अवेलेबल.
हम जितना टाइम, जितना पैसा अपने सोशल कनेक्टिविटी के लिए यूज़ करते हैं, just within that only we can learn many things. We can use those platforms to teach our students to be connected amongst us also, amongst
teachers. आपको मैं एक और
also.
एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ. जो भी आपने थोड़ी देर पहले सोशल नेटवर्किंग की बात करी, आपने चाहे फेसबुक की बात करा हो, यूट्यूब की करा हो, इंस्टाग्राम की करा हो, ट्विटर किया, इनमें सब में एक प्लेटफॉर्म बिल्ड है जहाँ से आप अपना प्रोग्राम अपने आप खुद लाइव कर सकते हैं. सो समटाइम्स व्हाट हैपन,
अभी हमने भी एक नया ट्विटर स्पेस का यूज़ किया था फॉर आवर MBA प्रोग्राम प्रमोशन, where we used Twitter Space platform, and the program was really a success. Like it was completely interactive. Anybody can just log in and ask the questions, and the students were so happy. They wanted to use it more frequently.
देखिए आज का जो सिनेरियो है उसमें पूरा गेम अवेयरनेस का है. हाउ मच अवेयरनेस द टीचर हैव, द एजुकेटर हैव, एंड हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू मेक द लर्नर्स अवेयर अबाउट द सिस्टम. क्योंकि अवेयरनेस से क्या होता है कि कॉस्ट आप सेव करते हो. अगर आप कॉस्ट कटिंग होगी तो कहीं ना कहीं आप यूटिलाइज कर लेंगे, एंड यू कैन रीच टू द अनरीच. I think the very good example the Indira Gandhi National Open University has.
Yes.
You see our course, the price of the course or the program.
Our motto, our university's motto is reaching the unreached. So where we are not profit based, we try to teach every student who is unable to access to formal conventional education. It is very much affordable. It is very much flexible. We use different modes like multimedia, what we are saying now. We use like audio, video. we use satellite-based digital technologies, we used print medium, we used web technology,
or real-time interaction.
Real-time interaction. So we use different platforms which are provided by our Government of India to provide education. So there is no dearth of facilities, there is no dearth of infrastructure. It is just our acceptance and willingness to do something new, something interesting, which will hold us in a very qualitative environment. So there is one more question on how to provide inclusive education using technology, and IGNOU is the best example of. You may like to throw some light onto this. How IGNOU provides inclusive education.
Look, if you go if you see the inception stage, I think in 1985 when this university was started, I think the people have a feeling in their mind that without chalk and duster, how this university will run. But we have proved ourselves. We have developed our self-learning material in such a way that when the learners go through the content, they feel that they are in the classrooms.
Right.
So without chalk and duster, the university have established. And if you talk from 2020 onwards, we have started 2 programs as a pilot project as far as online programs are concerned. Until date, the enrollment of our learner is somewhere around 13,000, and the program is 40 million numbers.
Affordability is a problem. Then reaching a particular institute to study something is a problem. Then our social commitments, then our if we are employed. So there are many reasons which creates an hindrance for higher education.
देखिए, वो आपने जो बात कही inclusive education की, IGNOU is a very good example. The reason behind is that how we are doing the things. We always try to bridge the gap. The demand in the present scenario is that the learning should be more blended in nature, more hybrid in nature. Keeping in mind, we have developed online programs. So now the full flexibility is there. The learners who are offline, they can migrate into online. The learners who are online, they can shift it into offline as per their wish. So this is something. These are the flexibility which are given to the learners. And on the other hand, we have not restrict anything.
No.
The content, the pedagogy, the modus operandi which need to be developed for the online learners are going to be shared to the offline learners also. The very good example is the IGNOU portal. We put our self-learning materials on the IGNOU portal, but we have seen that the bona fide student who are related with the IGNOU programs or IGNOU courses, they are accessing, and on the other hand, the learners who are not in touch with the not bona fide learners of IGNOU, they are also going through that.
We try to pay attention to the specially challenged, physically challenged students also. So उनके लिए हम audio programs जैसे करते हैं. Then for
there are certain the devices which have been made and generated.
And mobile app based
learning
is there. So there are many mechanisms. I think
for physically challenged,
we have to end the session here. It's quite an interesting topic also. We'll look forward to see you again sometime. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Sudeep Jha. I'm here in the physics faculty of School of Sciences of Indira Gandhi National Open University. I'm in this system since last 30 plus years, and as you may be aware, IGNOU is a pioneer national open university in the field of open and distance learning. Now, why multidisciplinary higher education is needed? Now, the most important reason for making our undergraduate programs multidisciplinary is that job markets now don't require people who are specialized in a single area of study or discipline. They want people to have a multiple skills simultaneously when they come out as a graduate. Secondly, this straitjacketing and narrowing down our undergraduate programs quite early into arts, science and commerce, they say that let us break this barrier and give the option to students to pick up courses as per their interest from a basket of courses which will consist of courses from arts, humanities, social sciences and commerce. So that liberty can be given, and this multidisciplinarity actually, as Professor Pandey said, that now the emerging knowledge is being created at the interface of two or more disciplines. Pure disciplines research is of course there, but the societal demand is such that two or more disciplines have to work together to solve the emerging problems of the society. And the outcome of such interaction, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary higher education, in the past is the evolving disciplines like women studies, gender and development, energy studies. For example, being a person from science background, I can say that energy studies is evolving into a new area where people from background of mathematics, chemistry, physics, engineering, they all come together, sit together and identify a problem, and they all come with their own skill sets and knowledge base. So that kind of an interaction has given rise to new disciplines like energy studies, public policy, Asian studies, Canadian studies, etc. So the whole idea is that the higher education should be essentially aimed toward solving the problems of the society rather than just for the sake of acquiring knowledge in itself. So with this objective in mind, the NEP puts a very high priority to multidisciplinary higher education. Now the point here is, as a teacher you will know that okay, that's fine, I do agree, I accept the arguments in favor of making our higher education multidisciplinary. Then next question will be, what will be the implication of making our higher education multidisciplinary? Now there are implications on various fronts. First is the institutional implication. As I mentioned, that institutional implications is that universities and colleges have to become multidisciplinary rather than unitary. What is the implication for a teacher? For a teacher, the implication is that you have to sit down in the committee in a group of teachers comprising faculty from all disciplines, and then look at the curriculum of our undergraduate programs, how it can be made more multidisciplinary in the sense that how our students will have many options to pick up courses from any discipline he or she likes. Of course, the overall structure, it's not free for all. Overall structure will be there, which we expect any time very soon from UGC, but within that overall structure, the student will have freedom, and institutions should be in a position to provide that opportunity to students so that they can pick up courses of their choice. So that is the implication for a teacher. And third implication is for the policymakers and funding agencies, that how to are also encouraged to take up projects and do meaningful research in their respective area as well as in the areas of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary disciplines. And another important aspect of NEP 2020 is that they are saying that if someone is getting into undergraduate program for 4 years, then and for some reason, or good or bad, for some reason he or she wants to quit after completing, let's say, 1 year or 2 years. So will it not be prudent to give them certification for the effort they have made during those 1 year, that is 2 semesters or 2 years? So that basic genesis has given rise to the idea of multiple entry and multiple exit in the new 4-year undergraduate program proposed in the NEP. So at the end of the lecture, I will touch upon this aspect also, what are its implications for a teacher, for institution and for students. Now, what are the different, once you think of an undergraduate program, so what are the components which NEP proposes should be a part of undergraduate program? I will again focus on the undergraduate program. So these are the major components of any undergraduate curriculum which NEP thinks that universities should think and work out a structure for their undergraduate program. First is nature and type of courses. You can see that first is the traditional discipline specific courses. Now discipline specific courses have been further categorized. I will come to that later. Another is the vocational and skill courses. On the right hand column you will see that whatever may be the credit, creditization is another aspect of NEP which was earlier available only with professional universities. IGNOU is an exception. IGNOU as an university started this credit system way back since its inception. So I will come to that also later. But whatever the total credit is for the entire undergraduate program, 50% of roughly, these are all rough estimates, but these numbers will give you an idea that what it takes to make your undergraduate program multidisciplinary and holistic. 50% weightage goes to our traditional discipline specific courses. 16 credit worth of vocational and skill courses is a compulsory requirement for any undergraduate program. Third category and component of this new multidisciplinary holistic undergraduate program is life skill courses, environmental studies, value-based courses and global citizenship education. So this is a new component which was earlier missing from the structure of most of the undergraduate programs in our country across the universities. Fourth component is field projects, internship and apprenticeship that is aimed towards two objectives. One is that they want that undergraduates should get an experience and live-in feel of the workplace that will come through internship and apprenticeship as well as with the society. As on date, by structure, no undergraduate program envisages except for say bachelors in social work, where they have this component as a compulsory component for students to visit the sites and society. But now the NEP requests the higher education institution to make it a compulsory component so that our undergraduates are exposed to the field of work where they will enter in the future, as well as they have some feel for the society, particularly with massive urbanization across the country. Our large segment of student population at undergraduate level have no exposure to the actual hinterland of our country. So that can be incorporated, that must be incorporated by way of field project, irrespective of the fact that the student is pursuing science, arts or commerce or social work. It's not necessary that field work for a science student has to be related to that. That leeway will be given. The intent of this component I have explained just now. And fourth is, of course, if you are planning to have a 4-year undergraduate program, this 4-year undergraduate program incidentally has an exit after 3 years. That I will discuss at the level when I discuss multiple entry and exit. So in the nutshell, these are the 5 major components of holistic and multidisciplinary interdisciplinary undergraduate program as it has been envisaged in the NEP 2020. As a follow-up to NEP 2020 policy document, there had been certain draft documents from UGC. So this listing I have culled out from those draft documents. The final document is still awaited. I hope it should come very soon. But these major components are the NEP vision, which has been translated into a kind of a document for discussion among teachers and higher education policy makers. So the next is what is the typical structure? And now this slide is important because what they say that don't ask students to decide on what disciplines they want to study on the very first day of their admission, right? What they say that let first 3 semesters be an open house kind of a thing. Let students study courses from different disciplines and different areas, and let them have exposure to certain compulsory courses in humanities and social sciences and sciences, some basic courses on mathematical and computational thinking analysis, creative expressions, vocational education. Now once they are done with this and at the end of 3 semesters, that is 1.5 years, then ask them that what are the disciplines you liked, you feel more comfortable about, and you would like to major in a discipline. So see here the flexibility and the choice to the student is huge. Once he or she has spent 3 years, 1.5 years, sorry, with the institution, then only he or she has to make up his or her mind that what disciplines now they will like to study in detail, meaning thereby they will like to have more credits in that discipline. And that comes at the stage of 4th, 5th and 6th semester. After 6th semester, they can exit with a graduate degree, and if they have certain achievements in terms of performance, then they will be allowed to pursue 4th year, which will be quite research oriented, and they can go for 4-year undergraduate program with research as well as honors. So honors and research degrees will not be open to one and all, depending upon your performance in the past in the 6 semesters. You will be either allowed or given an honorable exit with an undergraduate degree in your hand, with minor and major disciplines. Now, these are little complex nomenclature they have adopted. It's just a matter of getting into those documents. I will refer to one document which is very good document, that is NEP 2020. It has come from UGC. You can refer to that document. It's available on UGC site. Another equally important document in the light of restructuring the curricula of 4-year undergraduate program in the light of NEP 2020 is National Higher Education Qualification Framework. This is another document from UGC. So these 2 documents are quite important, and they give you some feel about the thinking which is going on to translate the vision of NEP 2020 into a real concrete structure of 4-year undergraduate program. UGC is working on it. These are draft documents. I think you must, and the final will not be diametrically different from what is there in the draft. So you can refer to these documents. This will give you some idea. They have categorized the discipline-specific courses into 4 categories: discipline major core, discipline major elective, and then the interdisciplinary major core, interdisciplinary major elective, and discipline minor courses. So for a discipline, suppose you are a teacher of history or physics, then your concern here is that you will have to think in terms of having some major courses as per the credit requirement, and some minor courses from your discipline. And that will be for someone who is planning to study from 4th semester to 6th semesters and onwards your discipline. So that minimum number of credits, the courses are to be designed for getting into the 4-year undergraduate program structure. Now, IGNOU as an institution had these ideas way back, and our bachelor's degree program, and since IGNOU is a national open university and large number of state open universities have come after IGNOU came into being and it started its bachelor's degree program, the very name you will see that IGNOU did not start with BA, BCom, BSc. IGNOU started with bachelor's degree program. So the name itself indicates that we were conscious of the fact that students should be given more liberty, and apart from giving them basket of courses from various disciplines, two other important components of our bachelor's degree program was some foundation courses. Foundation courses essentially meant that compulsory courses, and in that category languages, foundation course in humanities and social sciences and science and technology. These were mandatory of all the three streams, whether they are going to pursue BA or BCom or BSc. So that notion of having some, as it is envisaged in first 3 semesters in the previous slide I was discussing, IGNOU had this in the form of foundation courses. And third, regarding employability and skill training, we had this application oriented courses which was also compulsory. One has to take at least certain credits, whether he or she is pursuing BA, BCom or BSc, from a basket of application oriented courses. And these application oriented courses were coming from different schools. See, the IGNOU was in a advantageous position because as on date we have around 21 schools of studies in the same campus, but even when we started we had around 11-12 schools of studies on the campus. So these basket of courses in application oriented courses as well as development of foundation courses, it was not the outcome of a single school. Foundation courses were developed with the interaction and coming together of teachers from different schools. Similarly, application oriented courses, it was a basket in which different schools gave courses, and they were open and available to all students of BA, BCom and BSc. So the very name gives you an idea that this whole idea of giving choices and giving multidisciplinary undergraduate program to students in a limited way, because there's life skills and field internship, those were not the compulsory components in our earlier BDP program, but it was definitely one step closer to what has been envisioned in our NEP 2020. Now, what was this again bachelor's degree program? The unique feature was that this was the first undergraduate program offered by a university which was credit based. Credit system, as you may be aware, in our country was essentially the domain of technical universities, primarily IITs and professional IIMs maybe, but IITs definitely yes. And in the university system, this credit system was first introduced by IGNOU way back in 1990. Now, with the coming of NEP, the entire undergraduate program across the university are credit based. In fact, this credit concept has come into university system of normal undergraduate program a few years back in 2014-15, when this choice-based credit system came into being, and undergraduate programs were designed accordingly. But in case of IGNOU, it was from day one our undergraduate program, and for that matter all our programs were credit-based. And in terms of giving choices to students, it was compulsory that a student has to study minimum 2 disciplines, and there was no bar as such, but they can study up to 4 disciplines. In terms of making our undergraduate holistic, we incorporated foundation courses, as I mentioned in the previous slide. For employability, it was addressed by making AOC compulsory for all students to take, and all open and distance learning programs are very flexible in terms of space and time. And formative assessment. Assessment is another important component. I think you will recall from Professor Pandey's graph, which says that understanding is very poor, but the pass percentage is high, and that constitutes almost 50% of our undergraduates. So that's a cause of concern on which teachers have to ponder that how to make assessment a true certification of the competence of the learner. So in that regard, making formative assessment an integral component of assessment was also initiated by IGNOU from its inception in undergraduate and all other programs offered by the university. Now CBCS, it came 2014. That was another major restructuring of undergraduate program. But it is just a comparative thing. Now that NEP is going to give us a new curricular structure for undergraduate program, there is no need of going into the details. CBCS is not going to last for very long unless we have, by the time this 4-year undergraduate program is in place. But speaking from IGNOU's point of view, we found that CBCS was quite restrictive compared to our earlier BDP program in terms of choice of courses, and then BA, BCom, BSc were treated differently. For BSc, CBCS expects that you have to study 3 disciplines. For BA, it was only 2 disciplines. Then generic courses is a little ambiguous. There is no clarity what is intended to be achieved by generic courses. And for 3 years duration, you have honors program also, and BA, BCom, BSc General also with different credits. And skill courses have been there, but there is no clarity that what is the intent and how one should develop skill courses, what learning outcomes are expected of the skill courses. But that's besides the point, because CBCS is going to go very soon. Now, if you map the courses, then you say that you will find that our IGNOU's program, first 3 components were already there in one form or the other, but the last 2 components were not there, and therein lies the challenge for open and distance learning. All institutions, whether it is dual mode institution or exclusive open and distance learning institution, incorporating last 2 components of 4-year undergraduate program as envisaged in NEP is going to be a challenge. Why? Because ODL, by its very structure and nature, handles large numbers. And unlike conventional face-to-face teaching institution where there is a definition of teacher-student ratio, in ODL system, unfortunately, that definition is yet to come, because the core faculty is normally quite low, and we teach with the help of large group of teachers across the country in higher education system who work on our behalf as academic counselors. So the challenge is to incorporate these 2 4th and 5th component in the undergraduate program through ODL as per the NEP 2020. So these are the issues I will highlight for ODL institutions when they look for implementing the vision of NEP 2020 to make their programs multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. First is, of course, is a matter of details that can be handled. That's not a problem. The problem will be, for example, the enrollment in IGNOU undergraduate program, annual enrollment in IGNOU is roughly 12 lakhs. So out of those 12 lakhs, roughly 60 to 70% students are enrolled in our undergraduate programs. So for such a large number, how to organize field projects, internship and apprenticeship is going to be a challenge. ODL institution teachers have to ponder on this fact. And then next challenging thing is that with such a small core faculty, how are you going to go for a 4th year in bachelor's degree where you need to have a substantial component of research, which needs a very close interaction between a student and a teacher to make it a meaningful research project or research training. Next challenge for ODL institutions is that what kind of collaboration they have to strike with different skill and vocational centers, because their students are quite widespread and the students are not coming to the campus where you can have vocational and skill training centers. So you have to work out some kind of a collaborative arrangement with industry and other agencies which are expert in giving skill and vocational training to give that component of undergraduate program to your students. Now, these are maybe this may become restrictive issues when you go to your main mandate of reaching the unreached, because if you are catering to people in the remote areas, then all these facilities of internship, apprenticeship and research and vocational and skill training, so it will be restrictive for people who live in remote areas. So that will be a slight deviation from the basic objective of ODL institution, where they intend to reach the unreached. And of course, last but not the least is that when you are handling such large numbers, large quantities, then what methodologies you will adopt as an institution to maintain the quality, particularly when it comes to incorporating these new components of undergraduate programs. So these are the issues I think which ODL institutions and policymakers in ODL institutions have to think of seriously, so that their undergraduate program is no way inferior and it is at par with the best of the higher education institution in conventional face-to-face mode. So now coming to the next issue, which is multiple entry and exit. In that context, I will again refer to a document from UGC. It's available on UGC website. You can refer to it. It is called National Higher Education Qualification Framework. Of late, there had been a concern at the policy level that we have to benchmark our different higher education programs, whether it is in the area of vocational training or in the area of skill training. And the culmination of all this has come into the form of a document, which is, of course, in UGC website you will find that it is a draft document, but it's a good document and the final document would not be very much different. So you can refer to this. Now, NEP says, I mentioned in passing, that the time a student puts in with you as undergraduate, whether it is 1 year, which is 2 semesters, or 2 years, which is 4 semesters, so should not, and for one reason or the other he or she wants to discontinue and leave, then it is necessary that it is desirable that we give them some certification. So this is about exiting system. The NEP has says that after 1 year of study in chosen discipline, you give the person a certificate, and the courses he or she has completed in the first 2 semesters, that is 1 year, has to be at the level of 5 in this NHEQF document. They have labeled different courses, and every level, if a course is to be pitched at, let's say, level 5, then they have listed in very great detail that what should be the learning outcome for this code, what should be the assessment methodology and things like that. So after 1 year, that level 5 courses, if they have completed, including certain component of vocational and professional areas, then only you can give them a certificate after 1 year. And this certificate will enable the learner for 2 things. One is that he or she can come back to you after a lapse of, let's say, 1 or 2 years, then he or she will straightway join second year. And second is that he or she can go to any other university also and tell them that I have done this certificate, so give me admission to the second year of your undergraduate program. So that will be the freedom to students with this scheme when it is implemented in our higher education system. Same holds true for after completion of 2 years, he or she will be given diploma, and the courses have to be in tune with what is expected in this document at level 6 courses. And after completion of 3 years, the student will get a bachelor's degree, and the levels have to be commensurate with the level 7 courses of this document, National Higher Education Qualification Framework. And 4 years bachelors will have 2 streams, and they both are to have level 8 courses. One can go towards course based honors degree, and another can go towards research based 4-year degree. So all these both the streams in the 4th year, one will lead to honors degree, another will lead to a bachelor's degree with research. And all the courses in the fourth year has to be at the level 8 of this document I am referring to. So now this multiple entry exit essentially recognizes the fact that effort a student has made must be awarded, that is one. Second is that if he or she comes back to the higher education institution, then his or her prior learning and certification is given due recognition, so that he or she can complete his undergraduate program in the least possible time. So that is another aspect, and for this to happen, we need to have a some kind of a framework for a structure of 4-year undergraduate program, which is adopted by all higher education institutions, universities and colleges. Then only this mobility will work. So in that context, it is necessary, and I am very sure that the regulator must be thinking on those lines. They are working on it. Some kind of a broad framework for a 4-year undergraduate program is likely to come very soon, and accordingly that will give a lot of freedom within, and accordingly universities can design their 4-year undergraduate program. So I think with that I have given you some idea that how this holistic and multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary undergraduate program can be implemented, executed by thinking on these issues which I have highlighted in today's lecture. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, I am so happy to be talking to university teachers. Universities, as we know, are the centers for creation of knowledge, dissemination of knowledge, generation of knowledge, augmentation of knowledge, and there are certain stages with which all of you are familiar. We are at this stage for the last 2 years we have been discussing the National Education Policy 2020. After about 37 years, a policy has come in the sector of education, and all of us, in fact, have eagerly awaited its arrival. Several of us have in one way or the other contributed its development and finalization. We have now the strength of this policy consists in terms of the analysis of experience that we have conducted, the experiences that we have gained in the post-independence period. They have all of them have been put into this making of this policy. And therefore, for the first time, we have a lot of things that we could discuss here in this particular interaction about teachers. I recall a statement made by Gunnar Vedel in his famous treatise, The Asian Drama. It was published in 1968 or 70 and was received world over. They discussed what would be the shape of progress and development in the newly independent countries. He focused on Asian countries. He has mentioned that teacher education institutions, teacher preparation institutions or organizations are the power plants of quality for these countries. See the focus. It meant that every ideology of progress and development, every plan and project of progress of development will depend upon how competent, committed, and performing your teachers are. Which means, how do you prepare your teachers? How a nation prepares its teachers, and how the teachers in turn prepare the nation, the new generation, the generations ahead. So he said, these are the power plants, wherever you prepare your teachers. And I would like all of us to comprehend that we are not talking only of school teachers, teachers at every stage. If teacher education institutions are doing their job, then these teacher educators have to be the best of the well-equipped persons in their professional fields. They will prepare good teachers, and when good teachers go to school, they will prepare good products. When they go to universities, they will focus on creation of knowledge and generation of knowledge and new knowledge, assimilation of knowledge. They will also develop analytical capacities, how a new change is to be interpreted and how it is to be utilized, if at all it is to be utilized. It is also worth remembering that every change is not worth being accepted as such. Change is everywhere, but progress is not everywhere. What we need is change with progress, and this is the basis of this policy, and the whole policy's implementation will depend upon teachers, and I will repeat this several times during this interaction. You see, I remember when I entered the university in the 6th and 5th decade of the last century, there was hardly any provision for orientation of university teachers. We learned from our senior teachers. The numbers, as all of you know, were very small of the universities, but reputations were very high. The credibility was very high. The reputation of individual teachers, university departments was very high, because what we observed was the level of commitment, competence, and a desire to grow regularly. The growing up was very important. Now, at this stage, let me tell you that I would like to refer to the policy rather indirectly in several occasions. We'll come to some of the direct quotations from the policy also. But I have before me a book which was written in 1932, and the title was Remakers of Mankind. The writer was Karl Washburn. Karl Washburn. He had an interaction with Gandhiji, and he said, what would be your goal in education? You see, I'm referring to something like 1930 or so. Book was published in 1932. He asked Gandhi at that stage, what would be your goal in education? And all of us know Gandhi was working very hard on education. And we'll make some reference to it later on. So, Gandhi's goal in education, he said, in one single term was, my goal would be character building. And then Washburn writes that Gandhi further told him, I would try to develop courage. Now see, these are the things that will determine the role of university teachers in the new education policy, in the National Education Policy 2020. Gandhi says, I would try to develop courage, strength, virtue, the ability to forget oneself in working towards great aims. What more could be said? This is more important than literacy. Academic learning is only a means to the great end. And this great end has 4 terms, extremely important terms, which every teacher has to internalize. The terms are courage, strength, virtue, and ability to forget oneself in working towards great aims. What more one could expect? Now, if we go to what the policy says several times, the Indian tradition of learning, we all have to comprehend what is the ancient Indian tradition of learning, which produced wonderful treatises on knowledge, scholarship, and so on. Their intuition, their efforts, their tapasya could be seen in the scriptures that India has from ancient times and which have attracted the attention of the world over 2 centuries ago. It all began and it continues. It has not yet been fully comprehended. Now, the very process of education in the current context has to remember one more thing, and all of us have to remember that no country can go ahead with a transplanted system of education. We have been talking a lot about this. We had criticized this system also very much. But now the national education policy gives us a system without any criticizing anything of the past. It gives us a future-oriented system. And as teachers, we have to grab the opportunity. I would like to refer to a small term. For the role, we shall use the term Uttardayitva. Uttardayitva is something which arrives from, in the Indian tradition, from the 3 debts that every one of us inherits as we take birth in this country. Our ancestors told us that when a person is born, he is indebted to, or he is in debt of, he owes 3 debts. First, Pitred, debt to the parents, to the family. Devrin, the debt to the nature. And Rishran, the debt to those who have created knowledge, generated knowledge, and given us ways and means by which we are using that knowledge. And I will not go into elaborating these, but I would mention that if we analyze these in the current context, it refers to family bonds, our obligations to families, society. It refers to our obligations to nature, and it refers to our obligations to the knowledgeable, to the learners, to the Gyanis. Now, if you see the problems of today, because you shall be preparing, you are preparing the young persons who will develop the ideology of progress and development ahead. So, if you go around these 3, you will see most of the problems arise globally and nationally because we have been unfair to comprehension of these 3 basic postulates of how to live a human life. If we had taken care of our debt to the nature, if we have understood aparigraha, things would have been very different. We would not have been holding meetings, international conferences and confabulations on climate change, on pollution of air, pollution of water, and so many other environmental pollutions. But we did it. Let me tell you, the world of education is not the world of information alone. Information is necessary. It is not a world of knowledge alone. Knowledge is necessary. But it is also necessary on the part of teachers to comprehend the jnana and buddhi. सूचना, जानकारी चाहिए, ज्ञान चाहिए, बुद्धि चाहिए और इससे मिलाकर हमें विवेक भी चाहिए. The rich heritage of the policy, let me quote from the policy, how it summarizes this. The rich heritage of ancient and eternal knowledge and thought has been guiding light for this policy. Now this we have to comprehend. This will give us continuity of the ancient Indian tradition of knowledge quest to the present knowledge scenario. The pursuit of knowledge, Gyan, wisdom, Pragya, and truth, Satya, was always considered in Indian thought and philosophy as the highest human goal. This is what our ancestors did and taught us by example of their own efforts. The aim of education in ancient India was not just the acquisition of knowledge as a preparation for life in this world or life beyond schooling, but for the complete realization and liberation of the soul. World-class institutions in India, such as Takshila, Nalanda, Vikramshila, Vallabhi, set the highest standards of multidisciplinary teaching and research, and hosted scholars and students from across backgrounds and countries. Why people flock to a particular institution? Because of the credibility of the institutions and credibility of their teachers. Every university is known by the contribution of their teachers, and which teachers who understand their role, their uttardayitva to the new generation, to the society, to the aspirations of the young and expectations of the nation. It all depends on the teacher. Again, link it to the Gunnar Mendel's thesis. This is what it has been said here also. And the policy expects that once again our universities will rise to the level of Takshila, Nalanda, interpreted in the current context, and we shall be able to attract people. We need not announce that we are going to become Vishwaguru. If we move ahead, it is others who will come to us and say, yes, you are the Vishwaguru because you have so much of the storage of knowledge, so much of systems of creating knowledge that we would like to be part and parcel of it. There is one more paragraph that I would like to refer to it, but before that let me mention that when the UNESCO's Delos Commission report was released in Geneva in 1996, I was present there. And this, as all of you know, was the report of a commission, independent commission appointed by the UNESCO to consider and give ideas on the shape of education in the 21st century. Jacques Delors gave a speech at that stage and said, education in every country must be rooted to culture and committed to progress. I have not forgotten their sentence ever since 1996. I always mention it. And I think this is what our policy does this time. It links the policy in toto to the tradition of Indian education systems. Let me also refer to one point. As teachers, what we are doing, many of these, I am going to mention 4 aspects, 4 stages of teaching and learning, which could be the summary of Indian tradition of that developed in Gurukulas and continues for quite some time. And that is like this. First one is Adhyan. All of us know what is Adhyan. That is what happens in the classrooms, in the libraries, in others. The second aspect was Manan. Once you have heard a lecture, you have delivered a lecture, give a chance to the learners to think about it. What have I learned in the last 40 minutes, 50 minutes or 1 hour? And the moment the learner goes into this second aspect, Manan, a couple of questions will arise. His mind will active. He will have different opinions. He will like to say something more. He will like to know something more. And then it is the third stage is the Chintan, which roughly can be said to be something similar to peer learning. Talk to your friends, talk to others, talk in groups, interact. And once you interact, many of the things will be clarified. You know, major universities in the 60s and 50s of the last century focused on seminars, where a teacher would interact with 6 or 7 students, 8 or 10 students. and they would have their queries, other things. So this Adhyayan, Manan, Chintan were the key. And the most significant was the fourth, Upyog. Knowledge has a meaning only in our traditional thinking if it can be put to right use for the welfare of the people. If it cannot be put to use, it has no meaning. And this, I think, is basic thing that determines our role, our effort, our initiative, and also it's a measure of our competence and comprehension and commitment. So we go like this. But now I come to a more pragmatic thing. What the policy says about teachers. And this paragraph I must read. The teacher must be at the center of the fundamental reforms in education system. This is what I have elaborated earlier. The new education policy must help re-establish teachers at all levels. This is a very significant sentence. I will discuss it later on, but let me read it. Re-establish teachers at all levels as the most respected and essential members of our society because they truly shape our next generation of citizens. It must do everything to empower teachers, here referring to policy, it must do everything to empower teachers and get help and help them to do their job as effectively as possible. The new education policy must help recruit the very best and brightest to enter the teaching profession at all levels by ensuring livelihood, respect, dignity, and autonomy, while also instilling this in the system basic methods of quality control and accountability. This is a complete statement which, if understood in the right spirit, will clearly delineate to every individual teacher what is expected of him. And as you know, we had a lot of discussion a couple of years ago about the education in Finland. I also participated in it, but what I learned and inferred from all this discussion was, I said it also, we are not eligible even to talk about it. And people disliked this sentence. Why? I said in Finland, I like something which is not in the curriculum and textbooks, which the society has given to the education system. In Finland, the most respected person, the most respected category, the most respected individual is the teacher. There is only one category of VIPs, and that is the teachers. Everywhere they get respect. Whether they are primary teachers, whether they are university teachers, whether they are scholars, wherever they are teaching. A teacher is to be respected. This re-establishing the teacher, the teacher shall be re-established. Exactly. The traditional respect that Indian teacher enjoyed and which many of us had witnessed in our younger days has dissipated. There are various reasons, and no, we cannot go into this. Most of things are known to you, but a couple of things also I will mention in this. What can be done to empower teachers? If the teacher is satisfied, now a teacher cannot be satisfied if he is working as a Shiksha Karmi or a Guruji or expected to perform all the duties on a small honorarium, uncertain of what will happen after 3 months, 4 months, and 10 months. A teacher cannot be expected to do research if he is working as a guest lecturer in a university or is being paid on lecture basis. This is not this giving respect to the teachers. I am happy and satisfied, and I have high hopes that one of the things mentioned in the policy is that only regular teachers shall be appointed. If this can be achieved in this country, I am sure the quality of education will rise at least 15 to 20% without any other additional inputs. So this is one thing. The other is the administrative system, the systems of governance must give due respect to teachers everywhere, whether it is the office of the district education officer, whether it is the office of the Higher Education Council or the University Grants Commission, anywhere. If a teacher comes, he has to be given due respect. And the other aspect that the society has to consider and all of us have to consider, how can we attract the most talented persons to the teaching profession? We know that it was that some 60, 70 years ago, we got the most talented persons. Now there are so many avenues, there are so many other systems which are more attractive, and we will not be in a position to say that we are getting the best of the lot. But yes, we have to try our best in this direction also, and we hope that after the policy is implemented, this system of appointing people on temporary basis, ad hoc basis, remuneration basis will vanish. It will give a tremendous amount of self-respect to the teacher, and every teacher who is expected to contribute must have a self-respect of the highest order. And one thing that I would mention is, all of us, this is our role, this is our responsibility to see that to realize we are creating the future of this country. You are creating the future of the country. You are giving direction to the lives of young persons. Gandhiji once wrote that his mother had told him, if you can save the life of one person, or if you can shape the life of one person, your life is successful. If you can do it for two, if you can do it for more, your life is more and more successful. Then he says, teachers can shape the life of not one or two, but hundreds and thousands. All of us are doing it, but let us be conscious of it. You are creating the future of the country. Never forget this sentence, even if things are not that happening the way we would like in the system, we shall be doing. I would like to mention a particular episode. In an international meeting, after my lecture, somebody stood up and said, I have stayed in India and I have seen the university system, I have seen the school education system. I am surprised why the system doesn't break up. It doesn't collapse. There is so much of disorganization. And several people liked the question. Suddenly I had to respond. I said, Indian education system will never collapse. Why? Because of the traditional commitment of the teacher at every stage. Wherever a teacher is there, he knows that he is doing a pious work. He is helping people to grow. And therefore, this system will never collapse. And I am confident that our teachers who work in the most difficult conditions, whether it is a university, think of the state level universities which have hardly 2 or 3 or 5 persons as regular faculty members. And I am really worried how the implementation of this policy will take place. The only hope lies that state governments and central governments will take very urgent steps, highly necessary steps to recruit people. You can enhance the quality of research, quality of every effort only in that light. Let me tell you one more thing which I like repeating to audiences whenever I talk, and that is the educational leadership. I hope after the implementation of new policy, education leadership shall be consciously developed at every level. When I was a young person, my concern as Vice Chancellor, principal, was of a person who was respected by the society, who is a fountainhead of knowledge, scholarship, and who is a Gyani. Kings and emperors take dust from the feet of the Acharya of the Gurukulas. That is what can bring us up to level of Finland and others. He was the supreme person, the knowledgeable, the Gyani was the supreme person. We have to go back to that stage. The Kulpati should have the highest level of respect. The Acharyas should have the highest level of respect from the society. And the term Acharya, in fact, it defines all the roles of the teacher. Acharya are the icons. Think of a school child when the age of 7 years, when he goes, and after a few days, after a month or so, he tells the parents, oh, madam ne jo kaha hai wo sahi hai, aap galat kar rahe hain. The first icon of a child is the teacher. And this continues till he reaches the university. And many of us shaped our lives because of our teachers, the way they were conducting themselves, the way they were growing up, the way they were contributing to generation of knowledge, the way they were dealing with other faculty members, the way they were helping the newly recruited faculty members. All this we learned from them, and this is something that matters. Now here, I would like to quote from something published by Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence, Hyderabad, on a scholar and a Gyani. Kindly permit me to read it, because we are referring to Taxila and Nalanda and Vikramshila, and we want to go back to that level or even higher than that. So now, how shall we proceed as teachers? I quote from this publication: scholarship and wisdom are not one and the same. A scholar is but a pandit without any wisdom. I would say a scholar could be a pandit without any wisdom. And a Gyani is wise, sometimes without being a scholar. All bookish knowledge is scholarship. There is no guarantee that scholarship will certainly lead to wisdom, nor is there any certainty that a scholar will bosom as a wise person. Scholars may be large in number, almost in every country and age, but wise ones are rare, here and there, now and then. They are born to guide mankind. Sri Ramana and Sri Ramakrishna are Gyanis. Adi Shankara is both a scholar and a Gyani. It is wisdom and not scholarship that keeps us always calm and tranquil, serene and sober, peaceful and blissful. It keeps us above want. So it is better to be wise if we are to choose between the two. Now here what I wanted to, why I have quoted this is with a purpose. You see, I give an example in which many teachers have relished. You see, when the Los Alamos experiment, the atomic bomb explosion experimental took place in 1945 in Los Alamos, it was utilization of the highest knowledge available at that stage. But then what happened? While the scientists were thinking of how to utilize this knowledge for the welfare of mankind, those in power were thinking of something else. They had the authority, and Hiroshima happened, Nagasaki happened. Knowledge can be misutilized. Knowledge can damage. Knowledge alone can damage. And therefore, I like the statement which I read from Bertrand Russell. Russell said, and this is something very important for as teachers, for us to know, man has no chance of survival if knowledge only remains knowledge. But if we could transform knowledge into wisdom, he would not only survive, but will be able to ascend to greater and greater heights of achievements. In fact, I read it first, and then I was thinking how to understand this. Then this Hiroshima came to my mind. Knowledge alone could do so much of damage. And it is doing today also. We have now so much of atomic weapons, nuclear weapons, and the whole world is watching. Ukraine is happening. And therefore, it is the wisdom, it is the vivek that matters. As teachers at every stage, we have from information, knowledge, we have to go towards vivek. And going towards vivek means we have to be vivekshil ourselves. If you go through the policy, everywhere this is the expectation. Multidisciplinarity will require you to broaden your horizons. It would expect you not to remain confined only to a particular subject. I often say that a professor of physics is not only a professor of physics, he is a professor of physics and value education, professor of physics and character building, professor of physics and ethics, morals and values. This is the concept that emerges from the national education policy for teachers. We have to broaden our horizons. Therefore, Bertrand Russell has cautioned us. Others has also done it. That we have to be very particular. And he also says one thing. And this, I think, is very significant when critical thinking, analytical thinking aspects have been discussed in great detail in the policy. Now, as teachers in universities, we find certain inconvenient learners. And if you go through properly a proper analysis, as many of you have been doing, you will find some of those uneasy learners may have certain issues which, if solved, could bring out the best out of them. They may be brilliant, they may be very sharp. And this is our role. Our role is to ensure the individual differences are properly understood and inputs are provided accordingly. We can do it. If you have to look after analytical thinking, other things, this is the aspect which I have derived from Russell's statement, the example of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and which you can derive in your own manner from anywhere. But yes, our focus is on learning. It has been said that assessment procedures, examination systems have to change. And we shall not have any place for rote learning, what has been traditionally in our concept. Very nice. But first you have to prepare teachers who know how to evaluate, who can evaluate, and who should be innovating on how to evaluate the total achievements of the learner at every stage. Transitioning from marks and grades to a higher level of assessment of the individual's growth and personality is not an easy task. And all our tasks are not easy. We have to strive very hard to understand and then put before the society, before the young persons, what changes we shall bring down in assessment and learning. Now, this policy also has a lot for us to understand in terms of the philosophy of education as it has developed in India. I have mentioned the 4 terms, Adhyan, Manan, Chintan, Upyog. And along with that, I could also mention Prasht, Pratiprasht, Pariprasht, the great dialogical tradition. And I think I can also go into other things, but many of you are familiar and those details can be discussed, but those 3 terms were wonderful terms. Now, I also mentioned about Rishirin, Devrin and Pitrin. All this links to the Indian tradition of knowledge, generation and creation and transfer. But now let me come to some recent past. And there I would like to mention what is Indian ethos, what teachers must understand. What is the Indian ethos before teachers? All of us know about Gandhi. Gandhi gave us a 3x3 matrix. Head, hand and heart, body, mind and spirit, self, society and nature. Let me repeat. To bring out the best out of head, hand and heart, to bring the best out of body, mind and spirit, and to bring the best out of self, society and nature. It is same. In the broader perspective, it is same. It is put in different manner. Gandhi's contribution to education still has a relevance. Basic education he used to talk, and today we say there will be no distinction between vocational education and academic education, liberal education. It will require tremendous effort on the part of us, the teachers, to integrate these two and generate interest in both. We need really scholars and gyanis who go to the highest level of researches. We also need people who can utilize these researches and transform them into practical gadgets and such applications that will help the society. And Gandhi always used to say, the last man in the line. Vivekananda. The Delos Commission report which I referred to is titled Learning the Treasure Within. When I saw it for the first time, the immediate tinkering of mind went to Swami Vivekananda's statement, education is manifestation of perfection already in man. It's a wonderful thing. Every learning is within the learner.